All right, Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields continues to advocate for the chance to play football this season. You know about his petition for the Big Ten to reverse its decision on the football season that now has over 260,000 signatures. Here was Fields yesterday with KJZ on ESPN Radio.
I think if the SEC, ACC, and Big 12 all think that they can have a season safely, then I don't see any reason why the Big Ten couldn't do the same. Like I said earlier, I think what we're doing at Ohio State is very safe, and I think if we can get everybody on the same track in the conference, I think that'll be a safe way to actually conduct the season.
All right, so that brings me to my poll question from this morning, and I'm not surprised by these results. And keep them coming on those votes at ESPN Greeny on Twitter. I'll take this over to the radio show this afternoon. 72% of you who've responded say yes, if there are individual schools in the Big Ten or the Pac-12 that feel they can go on and play safely, should they be allowed to? And the answer, again, 72% of you say yes. Let me bring my college crew in here. I've got Booger, I've got Greg, and I've got Paul. So here's my argument, if you will. And Booger, look, you and I have disagreed on a million things. And as I've told you, like most geniuses, I won't be fully appreciated until long after my time. Here's the way I see it. If Nebraska or Ohio State, we'll just use them as the examples here, want to continue to play and feel they can do so safely, and the rest of the conference decides that they don't want to and don't feel they can do so safely, then in my opinion, Nebraska and Ohio State, if they can find people to play, should be allowed to go play those people, and the rest of the Big Ten shouldn't be mad at them. Split whatever money you make that you normally would, let the other schools opt out the way the players can, and let those players and those teams play, again, assuming they believe they can do so safely. I don't really understand if we were going to go ahead and, if 2 of the teams didn't want to play, the other 12 would. I'm not 100% sure why. If 12 of the teams aren't going to play, 2 can't. Booger, tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, Greeny, I think it boils down to commitment. All of us on this panel right now are married men. If your wife's having a bad couple months, are you just going to walk out on her and leave her? No, you're not. It's good times and bad times. And right now, this is one of those bad times in the Big Ten. That's number one, Greeny. Secondly, here's what I'll say. If you're Nebraska, you joined the Big Ten for a number of reasons. You needed the Big Ten. The Big Ten didn't need Nebraska. Let's first and foremost make that distinction. Secondly, the Big Ten wrote Nebraska a check for $52 million. Are you willing to give that back? Are you willing to take away what the Big Ten has brought you from a notoriety standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint? Also, no one was really focusing on Nebraska, Greeny, until they joined the Big Ten. And so I think if you're Scott Frost and you're Nebraska, you better be careful. Just to play 10 or 12 games this fall, I think could be a disastrous situation going forward. Now, some would argue, Paul, you probably could speak on this, that Nebraska had no reason to join the Big Ten in the first place, that they belong in the Big 12. That's another story for another day. But I'm just saying right now, Greeny, from a commitment standpoint, the Big Ten made a commitment to Nebraska, and I think Nebraska should honor that commitment because they needed the Big Ten a few years ago when they joined.
Wait, I have to take issue with the first, and with all of it. The first analogy, if your wife is having a bad day, obviously you don't leave her. But if the 2 of you have tickets to go see a play or a football game or something, and she gets sick, can you not still go? Is it in a, that's a better analogy. We're not leaving each other. We're just going on and taking advantage of one opportunity that we can that the others cannot. I don't understand why the teams left behind would be upset by this. They're not playing whether Nebraska plays or not.
Because it's a commitment, Greeny. The Big Ten institutions are committed to each other, okay? All for one, one for all. If we're having a great year financially, if we're having a great year on the field, we're all going to benefit. But if we're having a down year or we decide to make some decisions that are going to impact us all, I think the Big Ten Conference and Kevin Warren expect everyone, whether you agree slightly or disagree, we're going to stand behind the cause because we are united. That's what happens in the SEC. That's why the SEC is looked at as the best, the most powerful conference in the country because they all stick together, whether some agree or some don't.
Paul?
I feel like I'm watching Dr. Phil, but enough of that. Greeny, I understand Booger's point, and I understand yours. And a week ago, I was on Booger's side, but today I am admittedly very confused for this reason. I know what I said about Sandy Barber a few minutes ago, but the Minnesota president, in all fairness, has given an ambiguous response about whether or not they had a vote or not. So I think it's incumbent upon the commissioner of the Big Ten, Kevin Warren, to explain what happened. And if he explains it in the same way that the athletic directors and others have gone, then maybe Booger is correct here. But until we know what really happened, it's hard to make a determination right now on whether or not this conference is united, because there are some indications they are not united.
Greg, I got 1 minute left. It's yours. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's convenient that Booger used Nebraska as the sole piece of his argument. You say, well, Nebraska needs the Big Ten as much, if not more, than the Big Ten needs Nebraska. Well, you conveniently left out Ohio State. And Ohio State happens to be the biggest and maybe the most popular football team in America when it comes to college football. The Big Ten needs Ohio State to be happy. And I completely agree with you, Greeny. If I am in charge of the athletics at either Nebraska, Ohio State, Penn State, you name it, my obligation is not necessarily to the powers above me. Yeah, to a certain extent it is. But right now, I'm trying to protect the interests of my student athletes. If I'm Gene Smith and I'm the AD at Ohio State, I need to hear Justin Fields out. I need to hear what my players have to say, because ultimately, they're the ones that are sacrificing this season. They are having a year of their eligibility taken away, and the likelihood of a spring season is not going to happen. So I feel if I were associated with any of the programs that are considering playing football, I want to hear what my student athletes have to say, and if they're comfortable playing, then I'm going to find as many opportunities to allow them to play if I can do so under the letter of the law within the contract.
Here's the bottom line of it, guys.
With the Big Ten.
Here's the bottom line. When Broadway comes back, we're going to get 4 tickets to Hamilton, okay? And Paul and Booger, if you guys should get a cold and you can't make it that day, McElroy and I are going anyway. We're going anyway. And
hey,
I
we're
want to
not
hear
throwing away our shot.
We're not throwing away our shot. That is exactly right. We're young, scrappy, and hungry, and we're not throwing away our shot.